Let's look at how to animate a mesh. So for this scene, I'm thinking of maybe animating parts of my table. I want to maybe have this top surface kind of start to deform while the whole candlestick drops, just to make it a little bit more surreal. So in order to do this, first I need to add divisions in my tabletop, because right now it's just one solid plane, and if I wanted to actually have it start to deform, I would need to have subdivisions. So one of the ways we learned to do this was with adding edge loops, right? So let's select Insert Edge Loop under my modeling rollout, and let's add some subdivisions to this surface. So I'm going to add a couple here. And also some on this side. Okay, so this will give me enough room to be able to play. To exit Edit Edge Loop, just click on your mouse here. And let's see, make sure you're in object mode too. And so now that we're in object mode, I can go to vertex, for example, and now let's see, I do have some new subdivisions that I can play around with. Great, and so I want to animate this, and I want this to happen constantly throughout my 10-second animation. I want to have my table kind of deforming. And maybe I will use soft select so that instead of this looking spiky, maybe it's a little bit more of an undulated form. So with my key at 0, or at my first frame, I'm going to select a couple of vertices. Maybe I can hide my lamp. So that I can see better. Okay, so this looks good for now. And let's go ahead and keyframe this first frame just as is. And then maybe I want things to start moving up after maybe half a second. So if 1 second has 30 frames, half a second would have 15 frames. So if I go over to frame 15 and then I start to pull these up, maybe I want to have my soft selection a little bit wider. So I'm going to pull these up and then I'm going to keyframe this. And then I'm going to go now to frame 30 and maybe bring these back down. And maybe I want them to go now lower. And keyframe this again. Okay, so far I have this motion, and I think I could cycle this these 3 keyframes so that this kind of just repeats over and over along my timeline. So to do that, I want to hold Shift and select my range of keyframes that I want to copy, and then right click and hit copy. And oh, I might have not copied my last frame. Just make sure you're selecting all your keys and hit copy. And then I want to go 15 frames further in, so to frame 45, and then click paste. So it starts out flat, goes up, and down, and then it goes back to flat. And then it goes up and down. And again, we could now select this new range and copy it and paste it again. And you might need to go in and just adjust certain keyframes. To their exact location. So you hit Shift, you drag your mouse, and then with the keyframe selected, you just click on the arrows to move it to the right number. So what I'm doing right now is every 15 frames, my mesh deforms itself. And it makes the table go from a flat surface up and then down and then flat again, up and down and flat again. And I'm just going to paste this same action until the end of I might select these ones. And copy and paste these keyframes again. Okay. So this is what my mesh looks like. I could go and maybe in between select some different vertices and do the same kind of effect, and that way it would be a little bit asynchronous. So I can keyframe here and then move again forward and maybe pull these up and keyframe them and move forward a bit, pull them down and keyframe again. And then that way we have more of an irregular situation, and we would need to lastly bring them back to their flat point here. So to do that, again, you press R for scale, use a reference point that's at the level where you want all your vertices to be, and scale them up. And then hit S to keyframe. So we have them flat now here. And an easier way to visualize this, because now we have two sets of vertices that are being keyframed. The first ones that we copy pasted along our timeline, and then the second ones that are these new vertices, right? And it may be difficult to kind of get a clear understanding of what's happening in the timeline. Another way to be able to see this is using your graph editor, which if you go under Animation, Windows, Animation Editors, Graph Editor, this window opens up. And so this is a way for you to be able to see your keyframes. So we'll look more into the graph editor in the next tutorial, but I just want you to see that there are different ways of visualizing your keyframes and working with them. So let's finish keyframing our vertices, and maybe the second set is a little bit more irregular and not so rhythmic. So again, here's the first moment that I keyframed it and then goes up and down and flat. And I just want to keep kind of animating it. So I'm going to bring it up, press S, and then bring it down and press S. Maybe bring it up, keyframe with S, down, up. And maybe towards the end I wanted to just kind of go slower. And maybe I just wanted to go higher too. You should kind of just also have fun with the software and don't be afraid to not be precise about it. Experiment with it. I think I'm gonna flatten things out here. So for this last keyframe, I just want to have everything flat. Okay, so let's take a look at what our animation looks like now. I'm going to turn the lamp on and let's look at our circular camera motion path. I'm going to go to object mode and exit this so you can see it better. So it's kind of an animated table. With a lamp, with the candlestick jumping over it.